There is a moment, just before something life-changing arrives, when silence feels louder than sound. It's the moment when you've stopped begging for visibility and started carrying the heartbreak quietly instead. Not because it healed, but because it became too sacred to drag through every conversation. That moment is where you are now. Not the beginning of the storm, the very last few minutes of it. You're not frantic anymore. You're not begging for applause for surviving what tried to destroy you. You're not screaming into rooms that can't hear your pain. You just want the weight off your spirit. You just want relief that feels real, not rehearsed. You just want peace that doesn't require pretending. And something unseen has been paying attention to that shift. Not the way the world watches, judgment first, compassion later, but the way heaven watches, quietly, tenderly, with exact memory. Every tear you swallowed, every time you got back up with no audience, every night you folded yourself into prayer, not knowing if comfort or breakthrough would answer first. Something ancient, aware, intelligent, merciful, has been tracking your inner evolution. And that is the real reason this message found you today. Not by chance, not by algorithm, not by coincidence, but by recognition. Because transformation leaves a signature, and you've been wearing yours like emotional stardust. Let's speak honestly about the road behind you. You didn't just carry pain, you carried unanswered questions with it. You navigated seasons where nothing made sense fast enough to soothe the wound. You endured transitions that felt too long to be temporary and too painful to call beautiful. You survived moments that should have shattered your belief in goodness altogether. And yet, something fascinating happened inside you. You didn't lose your spiritual hunger when life went dark. You refined it. You didn't stop hoping when things got heavy. You became selective about where hope deserved to land. You didn't pray less. You prayed clearer. Not desperate prayers, not begging prayers, but surrendered prayers. Prayers that said, if it's mine, let it reach me without me having to wrestle the universe for it anymore. That prayer is the kind that gets answered. Not emotionally, not metaphorically, tangibly. You've wondered why some people seem to receive blessings faster, even when your endurance ran deeper. But blessings don't arrive based on speed. They arrive based on readiness. Not when the soul is loudest, but when it's truest. And your soul recently crossed a silent threshold of truth. You stopped praying to convince the universe and started praying to align with it. That is a very different energetic language. And the universe responds differently to coherence than it does to chaos. Your answer is close now, for 3 reasons you didn't even realize you were embodying. You prayed for more than comfort. You prayed for change that actually belonged to you. You survived what should have made you bitter, but instead made you perceptive. And you reached emotional maturity, wanting deeply without gripping tightly, desiring fully without hijacking the steering wheel anymore. When someone evolves to that level, the universe responds like, all right, now you're speaking my language. That language is not desperation. It is alignment. It is coherence. It is trust without passivity, desire without desperation, faith without force. And let's talk about persistence. Not the motivational poster kind, the real kind. The persistence that doesn't roar. The persistence that trembles quietly but still moves forward. The persistence that cries in private, then shows up in the morning anyway. The persistence that keeps choosing breath, hope, and motion, even when motivation is nowhere to be found. You have practiced faith that doesn't crumble under uncertainty. You've been asking for a miracle while simultaneously becoming the kind of person who could actually hold one without becoming arrogant, disconnected, or spiritually numb when it arrived. That is rare. Most people pray for elevation but can't survive it without losing their softness. You didn't. You kept endurance and tenderness, discernment and devotion, courage and humility. That combination is not average. That combination is entrusted with more. If nature could speak about your life, it would say this: you weren't buried. You were root building in the dark. Roots don't grow because they're praised. They grow because the soil is heavy and the sky is worth reaching for. And you kept reaching. Not every day gracefully, but every day honestly. Somewhere along the way, you assumed spiritual reward would look like sudden external rescue, like doors flying open, like problems evaporating overnight. like clarity arriving fully formed, loud enough to silence every doubt at once. But your rescue didn't begin externally. It began internally. It began the moment you stopped shrinking yourself to survive wounded environments. When you realized that staying small to keep peace was costing you your spirit. It began when you learned how to keep your heart open without leaving your boundaries unguarded. When you stopped over-explaining your pain to people who only wanted the version of you that stayed convenient. When you stopped interpreting delay as abandonment and started understanding it as preparation. When you learned how to breathe inside uncertainty instead of panicking inside it, not controlling the future, not forcing outcomes, not spiraling when timelines didn't cooperate, just breathing, staying present, staying soft, but not passive. You kept moving, even when progress didn't look like momentum, but like micro-survival, even when it felt less like a rhythm and more like a faint pulse, so subtle you almost convinced yourself it wasn't movement at all. But it was, because sometimes the bravest movement is simply not quitting. Sometimes the strongest progress is choosing to remain emotionally available in a season that taught you how easy it would be to close. That is victory measured in vibration, not visibility. That's the kind of victory that doesn't trend, doesn't announce itself, doesn't come with applause or confirmation. It happens quietly, in your nervous system, in your self-talk, in the way your breath steadies before your circumstances do. And when victory is vibrational, reward must eventually become physical, because inner shifts always precede outer shifts. Energy changes before environments do. Identity shifts before circumstances do. Alignment happens before manifestation does. So let's talk about the arrival you feared would never come. The moment you secretly prepared yourself to live without. The breakthrough you stopped picturing because hope felt too heavy to carry anymore. It's not coming because you begged long enough. It's not coming because you proved your suffering. It's not coming because you performed resilience. It's coming because you evolved long enough. It's coming because you learned how to hold belief without gripping the future in desperation. It's coming because you held faith and change in the same hands long enough for them to stop fighting each other. It's coming because you stopped trying to force timing and started focusing on becoming ready. And readiness doesn't announce itself. It settles. The confusion is lifting. Not all at once, not dramatically, not in fireworks or fanfare, but gently, like fog dissolving without needing permission from the sun. The heaviness is loosening its grip, not violently, but gradually, like a clenched fist finally realizing it's safe to open. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because you did, like a tide that no longer argues with the moon. You are no longer fighting what is guiding you, and you'll notice something about what's about to meet you. It won't feel like something you had to bargain for. It won't feel like something you had to beg the universe to believe in. It won't feel like something you wrestled into existence. It will feel like something that was finally released back to you. Because answered prayer doesn't feel like surprise. It feels like recognition. It feels like remembering something your spirit always knew was yours. It carries the sensation of return, not shock. You'll feel it first as an emotional exhale that arrives without warning. The kind that makes your shoulders drop before your mind even understands why. The kind that makes you pause and realize you're breathing deeper than you have in months. You'll feel it in the way your intuition starts moving faster than your fear, in the way your body leans toward opportunity before your thoughts can dismantle it with doubt, in the way your nervous system stops scanning for danger and starts scanning for possibility, in the way you no longer pray for escape, but for direction. Not get me out of this, but show me where to go. Not make this stop, but guide me forward. Direction. Because prayer isn't answered by rescue. It's answered by movement, by doors you suddenly feel brave enough to walk through, by conversations you finally feel steady enough to have, by risks you take without self-abandonment, by clarity that feels calm instead of frantic. Opportunity, clarity, alignment. And those aren't coming someday. They're already arranging themselves around you, quietly, invisibly, intelligently, aligning with the version of you have already become. Sometimes breakthroughs are loud. Sometimes they arrive like earthquakes, shaking foundations, shattering illusions, forcing immediate change. But yours will simply click, like a lock quietly realizing it finally has the right key again. No explosion, no collapse, no chaos, just sudden access, just ease where there used to be resistance, just flow where there used to be friction, just peace where there used to be panic. Now let's talk about the one thing that blocks most people from receiving what they've asked for. Fear. Not dramatic fear, not panic, but subtle fear. Fear of disappointment, fear of being wrong, fear of hoping again, fear of trusting timing, fear of stepping forward and failing loudly. Fear has only one real purpose: to reveal what you are about to outgrow. Because fear only activates at the edge of expansion. It shows up not to stop you, but to signal that you are about to leave a familiar identity behind. The fear you feel right now is not a warning. It's friction. Friction between who you once had to become to survive and who you were actually built to be. Friction between self-protection and self-expression. Friction between safety and destiny. You are being moved into a life that requires your courage, but no longer demands your collapse first. A life where growth doesn't come through breakdown. A life where elevation doesn't require exhaustion. A life where success doesn't cost your softness. You are being protected, but not paused. You are being guided, but not dragged. You are being supported, but not suffocated. Nothing about your delay was rejection. None of it. Not the silence, not the waiting, not the unanswered prayers, not the doors that didn't open when you knocked. It was renovation, internal renovation, without announcement, without ribbon cutting, without ceremony, without reassurance. Renovations don't ask you to clap for the wall falling down. They ask you to endure the dust. They ask you to tolerate the mess. They ask you to trust the blueprint when you can't yet see the finished structure. And you did. You stayed. You breathed. You trusted. You kept showing up. You kept choosing hope even when it felt irrational. You kept choosing softness even when it felt unsafe. You kept choosing growth even when it felt lonely. And now, the new structure is appearing. Not someday. Now. Listen closely. The strongest answered prayers are the ones you recognize without doubting the delivery method. They don't always arrive wrapped the way you imagined. They don't always enter through the doors you expected. But when they come, your spirit knows. Your body knows. Your breath knows. You don't question them. You feel them. Now let this land gently, but deeply. You are not being rewarded for suffering. You are not being compensated for pain. You are not being paid back for endurance. You are being rewarded for becoming someone suffering could not collapse. Someone who didn't harden. Someone who didn't close. Someone who didn't lose tenderness just to survive. Someone who learned how to bend without breaking. Someone who learned how to stay open without bleeding. Someone who learned how to hope without hallucinating outcomes. That is the real spiritual certificate of completion. Not perfection, not purity, not performance, but resilience with softness intact. And completion always comes with release. Release of clarity, where confusion once lived. Release of relief, where tension once lived. Release of opportunity, where stagnation once lived. Release of elevation, where limitation once lived. Release of answers that don't just sound right. They feel like your name again. Now let's do this together. Write this, not just in the comments, but into your nervous system. I am so grateful my blessing is on its way. Not someday, not eventually, not hypothetically, on its way. Because when intention is declared, alignment responds. Not with noise, but with movement. Not with proof, but with positioning. Not with fireworks, but with doors. And now, share this with one person who is carrying their storm with more silence than support. One person who looks strong but feels exhausted. One person who keeps showing up but hasn't been seen lately. One person who prays quietly and cries privately and survives invisibly. That share might be the compass point their spirit needed today. Because answered prayer is never individual. It ripples outward through the lives of those brave enough to still believe. Beautiful soul, your ripple is beginning, and you are far closer than you think.